Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita, Chapter 4, Text 28. Page number 227. Raya yagnas tato tapo jagna yoga yagnas tata pare svajaya yagnas cha Antaya samsita vrataha. Word for word. Divya yagna, sacrificing one's possessions. Tapa yagna, sacrificing austerities. Yoga yagna, sacrifice the eightfold mysticism. Tata, thus, Hare, others. Pradaya, sacrifice in the study of the Vedas. Yagna yagnaha, sacrifice in advancement in transcendental knowledge. Cha, also. Ataha, enlightened persons. Samsita, Ataha, taking the strict vows. Translation. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of the eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. These sacrifices may be fixed into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charity. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely order open various kinds of charitable institutions like dharmshalas, anakshatra, atiti shala, atalaya, vidyapita. In other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, medical treatment, free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dvarya Maya Yagya. There are others who, for higher elevation in life, or for promotion to higher planets within the universe, volunteer to accept many kinds of austerities, such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasha. These processes entail severe vows of conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. Actually, it's 2 months. Most people go to the Mahatma, they don't shave for 2 months. Then on Vishnu Mahotsava, they shave, and then they go another 2 months. So 2 months they don't shave, and then 2 months they don't shave. but you can also do it for 4 months. He does not eat certain foods. He does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such sacrifice of comforts of life is called tapomaya jnana. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogis like the Patanjali system for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to all the sacred places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called yoga, jnana, sacrifice for a certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in studies of different Vedic literatures, especially the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, or the Sankhya philosophy. All these are called swadhyaya, yajna, engagement in different sacrifices studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice, are seeing a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is the direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above-mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotee. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. Om Arganatharandasya Janastakaya Sakshum Tamrena Tasmei Shri Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Danti Swapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare. Translation once again. Having accepted 6 vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, others become by performing severe austerities, by practicing yoga, eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. So this chapter 4 is called Transcendental Knowledge. In this section, verse 25 to 33, talks about sacrifice which leads to transcendental knowledge. Now, a lot of these verses seem very difficult to understand. This one is not so difficult. The next one is by stopping all breathing. Others curtail the eating process, offering the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. But if you read the purport to 33, it gives a better understanding of this section of these translations. The purpose of all sacrifice is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. Nevertheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. That's why we can't understand it, because it's a mystery, or puzzling, bewilders the mind. Sacrifice sometimes takes different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. Once faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifice should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform, bestowing no spiritual benefit. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter on the spiritual platform, depending on differences of consciousness. Sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruitive activities, and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. Anya bilasita sunyam jnana karma nabitam anukulena krishna no bhakti uttamam. So, these are different kinds of sacrifices which provide a gradual upliftment or stepping stone to devotional service. If you go to one of the tallest buildings in the world, Empire State Building, or one of the 100th floor, you want to go to the 100th floor, you can walk up the stairs. And by the time you get to where you're going, they say, we're closed, come back tomorrow. But you can take the elevator, and you get there in 10 minutes. So this is the difference, the gradual process, and the quick process. Prabhupada says here that Krishna consciousness is a direct process. So these are indirect processes, and don't always lead to transcendental knowledge or to real knowledge. Knowledge means to know the difference between spirit and matter and the control over both. But so many schools and universities are giving knowledge, but they're not giving transcendental knowledge. They're only giving knowledge about mundane things. There's so many bookstores with thousands of books which are giving knowledge, but also they're not giving transcendental knowledge, they're only giving material knowledge. Even if you go to the religious section, there's so many Bhagavad-Gitas translated by different people, but because they're not on the transcendental platform, they're not in the parampara system, they don't have control of their senses, their translations of Bhagavad-Gita cannot be accepted as bona fide, cannot be understood. Prabhupada said, why are they sticking their nose in other people's business? If one's not in the parampara, if one has not been empowered by Krishna and the spiritual master empowered to write transcendental literature, then one cannot do that. So the 15th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita says the foolish living entities cannot understand how they accept this body or quit this body under the spell of the modes of nature. But one who has eyes of knowledge can see all this. That's called jnana chakshush. We have eyes of knowledge because we see through the representative of Krishna in the parampara, and we may not have realized knowledge. There's jnana and vijnana. So jnana is knowledge. We may hear that I'm not this body over and over again. So we know that, we accept that, but we haven't realized it, the vijnana. If there's some noise on the roof, we may speculate what that noise is, but you can't understand what it is. If someone comes down from the roof and tells you what the noise is, then you can understand it. So that's the ascending process and descending process. So we hear from authority, the Mahajana Yena Tatapa Sapampata. There's 12 Mahajans, authorities. And the Sri Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of God. He was given the task of compiling all the Vedic literature, writing down all the Vedic literatures. And before that, people were Shrutidhar. They could hear one time, remember everything. Srita Goswami heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sri Sikriteva Goswami. He didn't have a computer, he didn't have a cell phone, he didn't have any gizmos or gadgets, but he remembered everything verbatim, and he was able to again speak the Bhagavatam to the assembly of sages. So this is the difference between material knowledge and transcendental knowledge. Prabhupada was talking to a group of professors in the garden in Los Angeles, and he said, we're saying Krishna is God, and you don't know who God is, so why don't you take it? So Prabhupada tried to convince them about Krishna conscious philosophy, but they were Maya Prakiti Gyan, knowledge has been stolen by illusion, so they couldn't understand what Prabhupada was saying. because they were not austere, they couldn't control their senses. So the endeavoring transcendentalist can see all this clearly. But one whose mind is not developed, is not engaged in self-realization, cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. So the scientists, the philosophers, to try to understand how everything is working, they may count all the atoms in the universe, they may count all the snowflakes that fall in the wintertime, but they still can't estimate or understand the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So knowledge means to know the difference between matter and spirit and the controller of both. So spiritual, material world, Apo, Vayu, Maya, earth, water, fire, air, mind, intelligence, false ego. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. This makes up the material energy. And so we're all under the control of material energy. We have a gross body made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and you have a subtle body made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. But also, they don't know that, and matter, life cannot come from matter. They say life comes from matter, and that someday they're going to create life in the laboratory. But it takes two human beings, one man and one woman, to produce another human being. And all of creation, that's the way it works. There has to be life to produce life. We can't find any example of life coming from matter. Even though it may appear, like in the rice you might find some insects, or in the atta or whatever, you find some insects. They weren't produced from the rice. They weren't produced from the matter, but the environment was such that they were able to take birth in that environment. So according to the laws of material nature, different living entities take birth in different circumstances. There's 8,400,000 species of life. That also the scientists don't know. And out of the 8,400,000 species, only 400,000 are human species. So there's 900,000 in the water, 2 million trees and plants and flowers. There's 1 million reptiles, insects, 1,100,000 birds, 3 million beasts, and 400,000 human beings. But these species of life are not just on this planet. There's so many species of trees, but they're not all on this planet. We're reading the 10th canto, 8th canto, Bhagavatam, the story of Gajendra the elephant, how he was on this mountain which was full of trees and rivers and lakes and flowers and birds and everything. So this all over the universe there are different species of life, and they may not be visible on this planet, but they do exist, and the species don't change. It's not Darwin's theory. Darwin's theories of evolution, Paul said that was just a foolish conception, and it's not right because he didn't know anything about the soul. It's just a theory or just speculating. People accept it as real, but we don't accept it, and many people don't accept Darwin's theory of evolution because we know that beginning of creation, Lord Brahma takes birth from the carbon dioxide Vishnu on the lotus flower, and Brahma could understand that his job was to create the material world, but he didn't know where he came from or how to do that. So he climbed down the lotus stem to find out what his source of his existence, but it was dark. He couldn't see anything. So he came back up and sat on his lotus flower, and he heard the word tapa. And he could understand that he was supposed to perform austerity. So he meditated for 100 years. And he meditated on Krishna devotional service. So after he did that, the Lord was pleased with him and came to him and shook his hand and gave him transcendental knowledge. Tene Brahma Rida Kavaye. Imparted the Vedic knowledge into his heart. So Brahma is the first created living being. He's the most intelligent person. It's not that the less intelligent, the intelligent comes from the less intelligent. Man doesn't come from monkeys. Monkeys have have limited intelligence. They can steal your glasses or steal your food and bite you or do so many things, but they don't have intelligence to sit in the Bhagavad-Gita class or chant Hare Krishna or follow any rules and regulations. So only in the human form of life does one have intelligence. How can a most intelligent living entity come from a less intelligent living entity? Doesn't make any sense. Still they want to put forward this theory, Darwin theory of evolution, that gradually, as time evolved, the living entities came into existence, the human beings came into existence, we evolved from the Neanderthal man, the caveman, and this way and that, but it's all speculation. So we don't accept any of these things, because Lord Brahma heard the Vedas, and then he distributed the 4 Vedas, and there was originally only one Veda. The Veda Vyas compiled the Veda. He split the Vedas in 4 Vedas. So all the Vedas are giving transcendental knowledge. Vedanta means end of knowledge. So if you hear the Vedas from a bona fide source, then you get transcendental knowledge. And also Brahma, as the job was to create the universes and populate the universes. So certain living entities were designated as progenitors of mankind. Pradapati, Daksha, Kashyapa Muni, Kadama Muni, so many progenitors were given the task to populate the world. So that's why there's so many living entities all over the material creation. The scientists say that there's only life on this planet, and if there's any life on any other planet, it may be a little amoeba or something. But also, Prabhupada smashed that idea over and over again. And we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, we know from Bhagavad-Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that there's life on every single planet. But the life may not be the same as our life. Krishna said he spoke to the sun god, the message. He spoke the science of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god 120 million years ago. So the sun god has the body so we can live on the sun. If we try to live on the sun, we burn up in 1 second. But so every living entity has a body according to the atmosphere of the different planets they live on. So when you look up in the sky, you see all the stars, and then when it's a clear day or clear night, you can see so many stars, the moon, and so many millions of stars are there. But there's also, they say the stars are the suns, but there's only one sun and one moon in each universe. When Lord Brahma went to see Krishna in Dwarka, the doorkeeper came. Because so many people were coming to see Krishna, he had to have a doorkeeper. So he went to Brahma, came and said, I wanted to see Krishna. So the doorkeeper said, okay, just wait a minute, I'll ask him if you can come. So Brahma waited, then the doorkeeper came and said, Krishna said you can come and see me, but which Brahma are you? So Brahma said, well, I'm the four-headed Brahma, the father of the four Kumaras. So okay, you can come in and see Krishna. So this is the Vasudeva expansion of Krishna in Dwarka. So Lord Brahma offered obeisance to Vasudeva Krishna, and Vasudeva Krishna said, well, why have you come to see me? And Lord Brahma said, before I tell you that, I want to know why you asking which Brahma am I? So Brahma thought he was the only Brahma. So immediately Krishna showed him that there were 100-headed Brahmas. All the Brahmas came from all the other universes, and all the Indras came, and all the different Shivas came, different living entities came, and all the Brahmas, some had 100 heads, some had 1,000 heads, some had 1,000,000 heads, some had 10 million heads. So the Brahma, the universe, according to the size of the universe, Brahma has so many heads. So this universe, Brahma only has 4 heads, but this is the smallest universe. So in this way, the creation is so vast, and it's not possible for our tiny puppy brains to understand even the chill universe, where to understand the whole creation and the spiritual universe world also is not possible for us to understand. But we can understand by hearing from authority, and we know that the Brahma Samhita says that there's the Haridam, or first Devi Dham, which is the material world, Mahesh Dham, which is the abode of Lord Shiva, then the Haridam, the Vaikuntha planets, and then there's Goloka Dham, or the highest planet is called Goloka. This is the highest planet in the spiritual world, and it's also the biggest of all the lokas or planets, or universes. So here in this verse, it's talking about Dvaya Maya Gyan, or giving in charity. So Krishna consciousness movement, or giving in charity, is recommended for the householders, or the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas. The Brahmacharis and Sannyasis don't have to give in charity. So charity should be given in the mode of goodness. When Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they had boatloads of gold and silver, but they wanted to retire from the family life and join Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and come to Vrindavan and become Babajis. So before retiring, they gave 50% of their wealth to Brahmins and Vaishnavas. They gave 25% for their family members, and 25% they kept for emergency, because they knew that they had retired from the government, and the Muslim government was going to give them trouble, so they needed money to bribe their way out of the government. So when Sanatana Goswami went to jail, he had to spend 6 months in jail, but he had received a message from Rupa Goswami that he had deposited 10,000 gold coins with a grocer. Was it 10,000 or 1,000? 10, something like that. So he had to bribe the jailkeeper with the gold coins, and he gave him a certain amount, and then he wasn't satisfied. So the jailkeeper was worried that when the Niwab would come back, he would punish him for letting Sanatana Goswami go. But Sanatana Goswami told him the story that you just say Sanatana Goswami went to answer the call of nature, and that he jumped in the Ganga with his clothes on, and he floated away and drowned. So that's how they got released from the government entanglement. So also Dr. Siddhanta told his household disciples they should give in charity to the widows in Vrindavan. If they didn't give in charity to the widows and the sadhus in Vrindavan, they'd have a miserly mentality. They wouldn't want to give to Krishna. So the householders, whatever they make, they should only keep enough to supply the bare necessities of life. The rest they should give to Krishna conscious movement. Nectar Devotion says that one should not endeavor to build big temples, but it also says if you get some donation, like Rupa Goswami got a donation and he built the Govindaji temple in Vrindavan. Sanatana Goswami also got a donation to build a temple. One time a man came to Mayapur and asked Srila Prabhupada, why did you build this big temple? And Prabhupada said, if I hadn't built this temple, then you wouldn't have come here. So building temples, not for our sense gratification, not for living comfortably, but propagating Krishna consciousness is required. Because the whole world is in material consciousness and only interested in sense gratification. So they have to become, the temple is considered like Vaikuntha. Vai means without, and Kunta means anxiety. So the temples are there to give shelter to the suffering living entities who are always in anxiety and always morose, trying to satisfy their senses. So people can come to this temple or any temple in the world and get a taste for Krishna consciousness by hearing the philosophy, by hearing the kirtan, by taking Krishna prasadam. This is our secret weapon. People may not be interested in the philosophy, but at least they can take prasadam. It says even if a dog takes prasadam, it will get a human form in its next life. So this is required. So that's the first thing. Then the tapo maya, the sacrifice of comforts, performing austerities such as chaturmasya vows. This is also recommended that we take vows in the month of Kartik or in the chaturmasya for 4 months, and these are austerities. They're recommended in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. So one can follow this chaturmasya vrat by eating only once a day, havishan, which is rice and dal cooked with no spices. But you can put ghee, no salt, no spices, rice and dal. You can eat that once a day. Or you can do other things. People don't shave. Here it says they don't shave for 4 months. People don't shave for 2 months, and they shave after 2 months. And generally, chaturmasya was done in India because the rainy season, the sannyasis would stay in one place. Generally, sannyasis travel and preach, but during the rainy season, it's too difficult to travel and preach. And back in the days when they didn't have airplanes and cars and trains, so it was difficult to travel during the rainy season. When Arjuna wanted to marry Subhadra, he dressed himself like a Tridandi sannyasi, and he stayed in Dwarka for 4 months, looking like a Tridandi sannyasi. No one could recognize him, and so the Tridandi sannyasi order has been there since time immemorial. The Vaishnava sannyasis carry 3 dandas, which represent body, mind, and words. The Mayavadi sannyasis carry Ekdanda, which means to merge into Brahman. So in either case, the sannyasi can stay in one place during chaturmasya and perform austerities. And these kind of austerities are helpful in controlling the senses and freeing one from sinful activities. The other kinds of austerities, if people do austerities, they sit in fire, with fire all around and the sun on their head, or they may stand in cold water up to their neck. But these kind of things are not recommended in the Shastra. One man in the ashram here, near Lalita Ashram, he never sat down for 20 years. He was always standing. He had a little swing-like platform. He used to stand and sleep on that. But that's all benefit he got from doing that was he got sore feet. And he got his heart became hard. He didn't get devotional service. He didn't get love of God. And finally, he left his body, and now he has a disciple doing the same thing. But this is not recommended in Shastra that we do this in Kali Yuga. We know Harinam, 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 Eva Kibalo, Kluna, Stevana, Stevana, Stevagatya, and the only method of sacrifice in this age is chanting the holy name. So this, we can do these things. The Prabhupada didn't follow Chaturmasya so strictly, but he told us in Chaitanya Charitamrita how to follow Chaturmasya. 1 month, no green leaf vegetable. 1 month, no yogurt. 1 month, no milk. 1 month, no urd dal, which includes soybeans and mustard dal, which are too high in protein. So this is concession, but the bottom line, he says that Chaturmasya we should give up all foods meant for sense gratification, or all junk food. We should only eat prasadam cooked by devotees and eat temple prasadam or whatever. Or we shouldn't eat outside in restaurants or hotels or airplanes. So this is Prabhupada gave this concession because this is the preaching movement. Bhakti True Swami was following Chaturmasya. Prabhupada called it Chaturmas. And so he didn't like it. He told him, go and take prasadam. I want you to go and preach. I don't want you sitting in one place. Bhaktisiddhanta did perform for 10 years. He followed Chaturmasya, he followed austerity, only ate rice with ghee once a day, and he made a vow to chant 10 million names. But eventually his health was deteriorating, so his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, told him to stop it, because it's more important that we maintain our health so we can preach. If you don't have, if you're not healthy enough to preach, then you should do what is necessary to maintain body and soul together. So Prabhupada also said health was first. So we should see that we don't perform austerities that are too difficult. If it's too difficult and it's making us sick, then we shouldn't do it. But if it's not so difficult, then you can do it. So this is the recommended tapomaya, or sacrifice of comforts. Now the other one is mystic yoga, or Patanjali system of sacrifice, which is considered devoid of the undesirable. The Patanjali system, they want to merge into the existence of the Absolute. Actually, it's said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that they want to merge into the body of the Lord. And Prabhupada says this is the most abominable. This is even more abominable than merging into the Brahma Yoti. To give up your individuality and merge into the body of the Lord. So we don't accept that kind of process. That's considered spiritual suicide. Or devotee doesn't want to merge or become one in the Brahma Yoti, nor do we want the 5 kinds of liberation, which are also offered, to go to Vaikuntha. But the devotee wants prema pramata mohan. We want pure devotional service, a pure love of God, which can only be attained in Goloka. So this is the different things that people follow. But this And then there's the Swadhyaya Yajna, or study the Vedas. And the also visiting holy places, one of the things mentioned here. So one should, of course, we like to visit the holy places, but it says if one goes to holy places but does not inquire from from someone who's spiritually advanced about spiritual life, it says Saiva Gokura, he's no better than a cow or an ass. But that doesn't apply to Yamuna and the Ganges. It applies to lesser places. So one should not just visit the holy places, but also to take instructions from the saintly persons in those places to make spiritual advancement. But people don't know that. When Prabhupada was at Radhakund, he was with his godbrothers, and Bhaktisiddhanta was there, and Bhaktisiddhanta was going to speak on Isha Upanishad. So they had a choice whether they should go on Parikramam and visit different holy places or hear from Bhaktisiddhanta. So most of them decided to go to visit holy places, but Prabhupada stayed to hear. So his spiritual master was pleased that he chose to hear, and he noted that Prabhupada liked to hear, even though Bhaktisiddhanta sometimes he spoke a very high language, even in Bengali. Even his English purports of Brahma Samhita, very hard to understand. But Prabhupada always still wanted to hear from his spiritual master. So this made him qualified to preach all over the world because he heard from his spiritual master. So Prabhupada said that I have not changed anything. I'm simply repeating what I've heard from my spiritual master. This is the parampara system. When a mango is on the top of the tree, it has to be handed down very carefully from one person to the next and the next until it gets down to the ground. So the parampara system is like that. The parampara has to be handed down through the bona fide sampradayas. There's 4 sampradayas. The sampradaya coming from Lord Shiva, one sampradaya coming from the 4 Kumaras, one sampradaya coming from Lakshmi, and one sampradaya coming from Lord Brahma. So those are the only 4 bona fide sampradayas or decided successions. If someone's not in one of one of the 4 sampradayas, then he cannot be considered bona fide. So there's so many yogis and sadhus and people in this world claiming to be spiritualists, but if they're not in any sampradaya, then they can't be accepted as bona fide. And our sampradaya is everybody in our sampradaya wears Vaishnava tilak, neck beads, and keeps the sika. This is very important. Lord Chaitanya was very strict about putting tilak. He was teaching his students. If students came to class without tilak, he'd send them home. Say, I know you didn't do your puja. Now go home, put on tilak, do your puja. And Bhaktisiddhanta wrote in the purport that if a Vaishnava, if the king sees a Vaishnava without tilak, he should sit him on an ass and ride him out of town. Sit him on an ass backwards and ride him out of town. So in all cases, Vaishnavas, we wear Vaishnava tilak, neck beads, sika, that signifies that we are devotees of Krishna. Of course, it may not be possible to wear tilak when we go to preaching in foreign countries, like Muslim countries or even Singapore, where they won't let you in the country if they know you're a devotee. So we have to put water tilak instead of putting real tilak. And so for preaching, it may be different, but on a normal basis, a normal daily basis, everyone should put tilak not only on the forehead, but in 12 places on the body. But if you don't have time for that, then you can but you must put tilak. Bhakti-Siddhanta said it's a must that we put tilak on the forehead first. Om Keshavaya Namaha. And Prabhupada did that. Prabhupada always wore tilak, and all his disciples are supposed to wear tilak. So, last thing is, and we see that Lord Chaitanya, that he retired from family life at 24, took sannyas, went to Jagannath Puri. Then for 6 years he traveled to holy places in South India. And Lord Nityananda, he was born in Ekachakra when sannyasi came and asked his father to take Lord Nityananda with him. So his father gave him, and he traveled with the sannyasi for 20 years. He visited all the holy places. And Lord Balaram didn't want to take part in the Battle of Kurukshetra because he favored Duryodhana, and he knew Krishna wasn't happy with that. And Duryodhana, and so Balaram didn't want to take the side of Duryodhana. And if he took the side of Krishna, Duryodhana wouldn't have been happy. So Balaram decided that he would not take part in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So he started a pilgrimage, visiting all the holy places of pilgrimage. So these things are recommended: studying the Vedas, visiting holy places, performing austerities, giving charity. But we should understand that these are indirect processes, and in themselves they don't necessarily lead one to pure devotional service, but they are stepping stones to devotional service. Many people performed austerities, Chaturmasha, Ekadashi, but still they were not free from the clutches of material energy. They still fell into Maya. So Prabhupada says here that only way to Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above mentioned types of sacrifices, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotee. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. So King Rahugana was going to Kapila Ashram on pilgrimage. He was being carried on a palanquin. So they only had 3 men to carry the palanquin, so they saw Jad Bharat, who was very strong, and so they thought he was a good man to carry the palanquin. But he was a pure devotee, Krishna, and he couldn't carry the palanquin properly because he didn't want to step on any ants. So the king chastised him. Why don't you carry it properly, or I'll punish you? But then, after having a conversation with Jad Bharat, the king could understand that he was a Vaishnava, that he was not an ordinary man. Actually, he had taken a vow of silence, but he did speak at this time. And the king said the only way that one can get the mercy, one must get the mercy of a pure devotee. And there's 3 substances: the dust, the foodstuff, the remnants of his food, and the water that washes his feet. These 3 substances are very potent and give us the mercy of a pure devotee. So we should get the dust from the pure devotee. Prithu Maharaj also said the same thing, or was Maharaj Rishabdev. He also said the same thing. We have to get the dust from the pure devotee and smear that all over our body. And that means we have to get the mercy of the spiritual master, pure devotee, by following his instructions. Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasha Prasada Narakinta Gopi. If the spiritual master is pleased, then Krishna is pleased. And if Krishna is pleased, the spiritual master is pleased. So no one can go directly to Krishna. People say, we meet people, they say, yes, yes, I know Krishna. I'm a devotee of Krishna. I don't want to hear any philosophy. I know everything. I know Bhagavad-Gita. But without the mercy of a pure devotee, you can't really know Krishna or go directly to Krishna. You can't do anything in this world without a guru or spiritual master. In this chapter it says, Tad vidi paripartana paripasena sevaya upadekshanti chegyana skyanastapa darshanaha. One should approach the spiritual master, inquire from submissively, render service unto him. He can impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. So this is the bona fide spiritual master. Shocham Brahmanistam. Spiritual master must have full control of his senses and must have understood the conclusion of the science, understand the science of Krishna consciousness. This is a real spiritual master, not someone who keeps long hair and big beard and speaks all nonsense and juggles words and people glorify and think he's a wonderful person. One man wrote a book, says you can't talk about God, and you can't speak about God in words. So why you write a book about something you can't speak about? So these people, there are people cheaters in this world. People want to cheat people, get cheap name and fame and adoration. But Srila Prabhupada wasn't like that. He didn't go to America to get name and fame, adoration. He didn't go there to get millions of followers. He went there to make genuine devotees, to preach and spread the Krishna consciousness movement according to Lord Chaitanya's instructions, which was that the Piti Viti Yatra Yatra Nagarati Gram, that the holy name of the Lord should be spread all over the surface of the world in every town and village. So Prabhupada went to America to preach, to spread Krishna consciousness, spread Vaishnavism all over the world. Not for name and fame, but not to have many followers. So he made it clear that he didn't want cheap followers. He wanted people who were ready to perform the promise to form of austerities, no meeting, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication, including coffee, tea, and cigarettes. So I don't think there's any other religious movement in this world that has those four restrictions. But Prabhupada made those four restrictions and followed every one of his disciples to follow it. And he said that if someone followed those restrictions, he would be considered a first-class man. Otherwise, the other religions are 10th-class religions, cheating religions, Kaitava Dharma, not really giving any process where people can develop their love for God. Love for God. This is what the goal is, to develop our love for God. So by performing sadhana bhakti, we're performing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, we're following the rules and regulations so we can become purified to come to the level of Raganuga bhakti, which is above the rules and regulations. So one has become purified, he doesn't have to follow the rules and regulations anymore. But still he does so just to set the example. So 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan were always absorbed in love of God. They conquered over eating and sleeping. They performed various types of austerities. They chanted so many rounds every day. They did so many things. They didn't sleep more than 1 hour every day. They ate very little. But they were their purpose was to write books. They were instructed by Lord Chaitanya to write books on the science of Krishna consciousness for the welfare of all the people of the world. So we have the books of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, other Goswamis, and these books are been translated by Prabhupada into English, so to delineate the process of devotional service, how to become Krishna conscious in this life and not have to take birth again and stay in the cycle of repeated birth and death. So this is one of the many verses, 25 to 33, are talking about different sacrifices which lead to transcendental knowledge. So this is real transcendental knowledge, to know that Jivera Sarupavaya Nitya Krishna Das, that I'm eternal servant of Krishna, that I'm not this body, Aham Brahmasmi, not Ahankara, that the soul is in this body. It's like a coconut, a dry coconut. If you shake it, you can hear the coconut inside. The coconut inside is not attached to the coconut. So the soul is in the body, but it has nothing to do with the body. It's only because of Ahankara, we get this false ego, when we come in the material world, we start to identify with the body as the soul. And we think the body is our real identity, but it's not. So we have to Brahma Bhuta Prasanatman Associati Nakanchati Samasaveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. When we come to that platform, the Brahma Bhuta platform, when we get free from lamentation and no more hankering lamentation, but always joyful, that is when spiritual life begins. When we understand we're not this body. So this is a gradual process. It takes some time. We have to hear for a long time and practice Krishna consciousness for a long time to actually come to that platform. Some there's sadhana siddha, you can attain perfection. Those souls who come in the material world to assist Krishna in his pastimes, they're called nitya siddha, living entities. They're always eternally liberated souls. Then there's sadhana siddha, there's people who practice sadhana and come to the transcendental position. That takes some time. And then there's kripa siddha, where people get the mercy without performing devotional service. Example that are Jagai and Madai, or Narada Muni. He served the great Vaishnavas as a child, a 5-year-old boy, and took the remnants. And because he did that, he got kripa siddha, and he was able to get the darshan of the Lord at 5 years old. And then his next life he became Narada Muni, who's the best of all the Vaishnavas, the best of all the demigods, Devarsha Narada. So in this way, Krishna consciousness is the best life, best lifestyle. They ask Prabhupada, if Krishna is not God, what if Krishna is not God? Prabhupada said, well, even if Krishna is not God, we still have the best lifestyle. So we have simple living, high thinking. We should only accept what the bare necessities of life, live simple, not try to complicate our life with so many unnecessary things. This way we can live simple and have peace of mind and live peacefully in Krishna consciousness. So that's all. Any comments or questions? It has to be on the subject matter. Ask an intelligent question. Just a question, man. Ask an intelligent question.
You were speaking that the soul is not attached to the body, but whatever we are doing, the body is doing or soul is doing, who is doing this? Who is the doer of the activities of the body?
What?
Who is the doer of the activities of the body?
You are.
Who am I?
Because you don't know. You're a spirit soul. You think you are. Because you're in Maya.
So soul is doing everything.
Because you're in ignorance.
Soul is doing everything.
I know, but you're in ignorance, so you think you're doing it. It says the living entity, the most, thinks himself to do activities which actually are carried out by nature. We think we're doing it, but it's only due to ignorance. When you come to realize you're not this body, then you'll understand these things. We can't understand these things in the conditioned life. We can only understand these things from a liberated stage. Prakriti kriyamani niguna karmani sarvasa ahankara vimuda katyaham iti manyate. Builds the soul on the influence of 3 modes of material nature. Thinks himself the doer of activities which are actually carried out by nature. Srila Prabhupada ki, Antara Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.